with all this AI-powered technology, the urge from companies has been to bring that technology and throw it into their products, just ensure that they have an AI-powered solution to take advantage of this wave of hype at the moment. But for Microsoft Teams, it's woven into the fabric of that platform. And that leads me on to Microsoft 365 Copilot. I just wanted to start here. I'm going to preface this by saying I am no modern work expert or Microsoft 365 Copilot expert, but what I wanted to do was start with just to give you an idea of what I mean when I say woven in. Microsoft 365 Copilot currently in private preview with customers at the moment. This solution is, I've had a chance to play with it a little bit. But the power that I've seen it's starting to come to life in a lot of these apps, right? The way that it works is that we take these large language models. These models aren't just copy pasted onto a desktop app for us to be able to access. This model is grounded in the Microsoft Graph. If you don't know, the Microsoft Graph is your data, your corporate data. So we take those large language models, ground it in the Microsoft Graph, and then deliver that experience through Microsoft 365. So if you're in Teams, you're finding out what is everyone talking about? Is there anything that I've missed? Can you give me a summary of what's happened in the last 24 hours? What's happening in this chat? If you're seeing it on PowerPoint, you're asking it to, hey, can you please take this this sort of single page document that I have and I need to create a 5-slide deck. Can you create a draft for me? That sort of stuff is where Microsoft 365 really comes to life in the Microsoft 365 stack. But then I get to Teams rooms because that's the business that I'm working in, right? It's how is it that all of this really comes into the room? Microsoft Teams rooms was already built on these pillars, being inclusive and intelligent, being easy to use for all, flexible, but importantly, I think secure and managed. It's secured and managed, right? It's easy to manage that room, to make sure that's secure, to get it deployed quickly, make sure that you can use it in any space that you want, all that stuff. This is still, there's no change here, right? This is still the foundation of the Teams Room platform. But what happens is we get these new AI-powered experiences that are coming into the room and are brought to life by the technology from our Certified for Teams Rooms partners. For starters, front row spatial audio, right? So we all know front row, it's just a layout. It's a really good layout, but it's just a layout. But with spatial audio, in a stereo environment in the room, it allows you to quickly and easily identify who's talking remotely. Oftentimes, it might be that you run meetings with 9, 12, 15, however many faces on a screen, but as soon as someone starts talking, it takes a little bit to identify who that person is, hunting and pecking through the order about who it is. Front row spatial audio sort of takes that away. It keeps the conversation and collaboration going smoothly, and it allows you to the technology sort of gets out of the way of the meeting room. Also contributing to that, you see I'm not going to walk too far away from the microphone, but you can see that there's a common background for all the individuals. You're not seeing like floating flowers or animated backgrounds of mountaintops, right? They're beautiful, but when you're talking and you're trying to deliver a strong hybrid meeting experience, taking that distraction away, putting everyone onto the same playing field, it's a small thing, but it's something that it's lots of small things that build up to a better meeting in the end. And lastly is AI noise suppression. So again, a feature that's sort of forgotten. It's just in the background in Teams, but what it does is removes that distraction. But one thing that we see a lot now is that the individuals that are in the noisy environment, you sort of need to put them at rest to say, we can't hear anything loud and clear. The noise suppression is working really well, just to because the distraction's almost flipped to the other side now. But there's two more features that I wanted to really touch on, and this will lead into sort of the aha moment for me when it came to these AI-powered solutions. In IntelliFrame, you would have seen 4.18 for Teams rooms on Windows land just this week, the update. It's brought to life, the spatial audio piece, but also IntelliFrame and IntelliFrame Cloud. That's all enabled now in Teams rooms for Windows. This technology, if you're not already across it, it allows you to have not just a single shot of the individuals in the room, including 80% of it going towards the desk and the wall behind them. It breaks out individuals in that meeting space into their own window, giving them letting you know when they're each talking, letting you know who is it, right? Depending on whether they've registered for the facial recognition and the voice recognition. But in Teleframe, yeah, it's actually super interesting. I'll give you a quick example. I was in a meeting room in the Microsoft Office just recently. We had it's a Teams rooms on Windows room. I could see that the IntelliFrame option to turn it off was there. So I knew, okay, well, the update's been landed. And in the room, you can't really tell that anything's happening, right? You're not distracted by multiple, like that little window in the bottom right-hand corner of the display breaking up into very, very small windows. It's just a wide shot of the room. But the remote attendees are the ones that benefit from this in the end. They get to see who is in the meeting room. They get to see who's speaking. They can really start to read those visual cues. If somebody leans in to say something, it's so much easier to sort of intuit those cues than if it's just a wide space. And that leads into voice and face identity. Now, it's available in Teams now. You can register your face, you can register your voice in Microsoft Teams. But what that does is in these spaces where you have IntelliFrame, you're not just guest one, right? Or you're not just room Contoso. You are Lee Edgerton in that room. And that's incredibly powerful because it folds into this feature that I'll get to here, Intelligent Meeting Recap. So Intelligent Recap is, if you haven't already seen it yet, it's part of Teams Premium, okay? Normally you would receive a recording of the meeting room, right? So you'd go into a meeting, after the meeting you get the video recording, you get the transcription, you know that you've got a half an hour, you've got to sit down and rewatch that meeting that you missed, making sure that you weren't mentioned or that you didn't miss an action or whatever, right? That is something that we're all used to. I'd watched it at 2x speed, right? Just to get through the meeting to figure out what I'd missed. This is super interesting, right? So instead now you get the same video, right? You get the same transcription, but with all these features combined, you're now getting suggested notes. So AI generated notes in this place, but not just notes of what was discussed. It was who discussed it. You find out whether you were mentioned, timestamps and links to when you were mentioned. You get suggested actions as well. So you could literally take a screen, like a copy paste of this for minutes, right? If you want to do a summary of the meeting outside of this, you can do that. I mean, it's suggested notes. So there's always this, take that as a base, use that as your draft, right? You're fine tuning that. You don't want to know Susie was playing soccer on the weekend, right? That's not super critical to whether you won the customer or not. But the idea is that you can use this. It takes that mental load away, particularly during the meeting. So for me personally, the power, yes, it's great to catch up later about this. It's great to save time, right? You miss a meeting that happened at 2 a.m. and you're saving yourself the hour in the morning to catch up on that meeting, but it's during the meeting. It's knowing that you're not pressured to be actively taking notes and pulling yourself out of a conversation or out of an engagement with somebody, whether that's in person or on Teams, and having to take notes. Did I miss something? I know that I'm awful. I have best intentions when I start, but by the end of the meeting, I look back and I go, oh, we talked about way more than that. I just missed a lot of it. I was in the conversation. So Intelligent Meeting Recap, super interesting feature. And if you haven't tried it, I highly recommend it. It will change the way that you think about these sorts of meetings. And I had a slide before this one. This is, if it's going to play. There you go. So this is just an example of the front row. It's showing an intelligent camera, center of table camera. It's showing the breakouts of the individuals where their names attributed, but you still can see the full wide picture at the bottom right. It might not be what you're looking at, but you can see that full wide picture. The benefit of these center of table cameras, and there's multiple OEMs that have these out now, but it's like these, it allows the remote attendees to be in the conversation. Because oftentimes what you see as a remote attendee, you're looking at the room and then there's a conversation in the room, everyone turns away from the screen to talk. I mean, naturally, that's what you do. You turn together to talk, and then what the remote attendees see is the side of people's faces, right? This really puts them in the middle and allows a more natural engagement and a more natural position for these remote attendees in that room. So this is like the intelligent features I wanted to talk about. This is all the cool stuff that's coming to Teams rooms, or that has already come to Teams rooms, that is all sort of powered out of this this new generative AI. But it's not just this. I wanted to talk about the management piece as well, because I think that oftentimes gets forgotten in all of this. And like everyone talks about the really cool features that are coming and how you can now like engage with this artificial intelligence to get stuff done. But the management aspect of Teams rooms has also been empowered with artificial intelligence. This is a really busy slide. I'm not going to go through it all up, but the idea is that the AI that's input into this portal, into the Pro portal, is taking a lot of the manual load that you would normally have. Do you do walkthroughs of the office every morning to make sure everything's working? Maybe you don't need to anymore with this portal, right? Where you've got an AI looking at not just your problems, but everyone's problems in the Microsoft Teams Rooms ecosystem, and identifying patterns where it's like, well, this actually could turn out to be a problem in the future. That sort of stuff is super powerful, right? And it just, again, I'm not expecting it to, like, this isn't going to replace people, but what it does is it helps people be more productive in this space. And I'll give you a real world example. So the current reactive model, right? And there's a proactive model as well. The example is that the network team pushed a time server change, which caused a Teams sign-in failure because timestamp on Teams app didn't match the server timestamp. Like, this is super simple stuff, right? Reactive model. You do the daily sweep, right? And then the time server changes pushed after that. End users experience an issue. The Teams app won't sign in. End users contact the help desk. They describe the issue the best way that they can. It just says it's not working. And then your dispatch, or the IT team, is dispatched to check out the room. They investigate the room. They're also trying to help the meeting that was delayed. Of course, that is the C-suite that wanted to have their Monday morning boardroom meeting, and they can't do that now. It's always the case. And then it may take many days, right? Hopefully you figure out the issue quickly and you fix it, but it may take days for that to be resolved. And in the meantime, are you calling the OEM, the Teams room, the meetings room's not reading? Are you calling Microsoft? Teams isn't working. Like, it's difficult, right? The proactive model is that the AI is looking at this 24/7. It's not waiting for a certain time. It's just looking at these rooms all the time. It detects and flags the potential sign-in issue due to the timestamp. It auto remediates the timestamp misconfig, and then it resolve the incident. And if it needs any action, it'll tell you. It'll say, hey, you need to go and do this. You need to go and do that to solve this. And then the room's back online. Like, this is, it's not, again, it's not a replacement of people. It's really trying to make sure that, I mean, it's a better experience for the end user ultimately, right? And so this is just one example of where this technology is really helping customers. So I wanted to close on this slide. I know we've got lots of time if you want to have questions, but there's so much more to it than this. Right? I could talk on this for an hour, 2 hours, but there's so much more to it. The takeaway I wanted to leave you with, though, is that there's two main things that you need to sort of be thinking about when you're talking to customers, right? Customers are like, oh, we're hearing about all this AI stuff. How can we be ready for it? There's two main things. One is that they need to be on 365 E3 or E5 and Teams Premium, right? At the very least. And not just be on it, they need to be using it, right? A lot of this stuff comes to life when they have a robust and rich Microsoft graph. If they have years of data, they have everything stored in OneDrive, everything stored in SharePoint, everything's attributed correctly, that's when this really comes to life. And of course, in the meeting room, we want to make sure that you're deploying MTR Pro, Microsoft Teams Rooms Pro license in the rooms, right? I mean, I would hope that you often are. I mean, with particularly enterprise, particularly if you want two screen, particularly if you want panels outside, right? All of these reasons. But to leverage these AI features, you need MTR Pro. Secondly, the hardware side. Yes, there are like IntelliFlame Cloud can come to non-intelligent devices now, and that's already happening on MTRW. But the best experience is when it's happening in the room. So that means you're preferring to deploy intelligent cameras in those rooms, and if it doesn't make sense, but you still want to have that, intelligent speakers, right? Because I know that there are limitations with how many individuals can be attributed to some intelligent speakers. So it depends on the room, but deploy intelligent hardware as standard. because you think about it, you don't do that, and a customer moves to go to intelligent. They go, this intelligent recap feature is fantastic, but why is everybody listed as guest 1, guest 2, guest 3? Ensuring that there's an intelligent experience in the room is exactly what you need to do to make that happen. I've only just scratched the surface. I've included a really simple link, aka.ms/AI productivity, but there is so much on there. I mean, this slide deck was designed before we knew how much Copilot was going to cost, before we had 4.18 land. There's a lot more happening. So I would suggest, like, at the very least, go here, give Bing Chat Enterprise a go to just try make it help you write the next email. And at the very, and also Teams Premium, absolutely give Intelligent Meeting Recap a go. So that's it from me. But I would love to. I mean, I'm here to answer questions. Like I said, I'm a sales guy. I'm no technical dude, but happy to try my very best to answer questions. And I'll have a look to see if there's anyone with questions on the chat as well.
Lee, really great presentation. Thank you for taking us through a question for you. What are you hearing? We're both in sales, so what are you hearing from customers from beyond what they need to do in order to scale into this? What are you hearing of some of the key buying or key success factors for them to figure out how to implement scale across the organization? And I ask from 2 lenses. One, the SMC side, and like the mid.
So for I'm sorry, I wish the mics were working. The question is talking about sort of, you got mid-market and SMC, you got different size customers. What are the considerations that they're looking at when they're deploying or trying to take advantage of all these technologies? I mean, broadly speaking, with AI, it's like they are looking for thought leaders in this space. They're looking for someone to guide them through all of this. But I mean, the same could be said for Teams rooms, to be honest. At the moment, it's like a customer, it might be that they go in thinking, well, it's a simple calculation. I have X budget and I want to get this many rooms. Whatever solution will fit into this price bracket is what I want, right? The reality is that that's great for right now, but in a year's time, it's not so much. The considerations, I think, are actually quite similar between SMC and mid-market. It's trying to take away from that X divided by Y mentality and trying to land that there is so much more to this. And sorry, I did see a few notes. I'm sorry, I will share the presentation after this session. I'm sorry that I wasn't presenting it, but yeah, everyone in the room got to see it. I will share the presentation after the meeting. I'm sorry, but yeah, I think that's what it is. It's because, I mean, I don't talk to customers directly, but the feedback I'm hearing constantly from partners is that there is this really simple calculation that customers are doing, and I think there's so much more to it than that. I've heard, I won't name names, but I've heard lots of really good examples this week about trying to change that mentality, trying to go in and say, no, but what is it you actually need? What is the room actually used for? Sure, you need cameras, great, but what is the room actually used for? And it finds out, oh, actually, this is one of the most used rooms, and there's no technology in it. Well, let's make sure that that's changed, right? Let's get the best experience for that room in there. But I hope that answers a little bit. I'm, again, not super customer facing, but yes.
No, but it doesn't sound like it's a transaction on just a room and outfitting a room.
No, I think customers are looking for guidance, right? I'm sure you all know this, right? You're working with customers directly all the time, but I think they're looking for guidance through all of this. And I mean, I talked about, I touched on AI, and even the most sort of forward-thinking customers are still like, you go, hey, say, what's your AI strategy? And they're like, where do I even start? So I think that's what they're really looking for. And that's where hopefully sessions like this, I'm just trying to plant the seed, right? I'm trying to get you thinking, if it's just touching like an LLM and figuring out how it can help you, and then trying to get that learning and apply it to how it can help other personas in a customer. And then you sort of snowballs from there. Yes.
There was a slide in there that talks about how the facial recognition and voice identification is going to help with Copilot.
Yes.
How exactly does Copilot tie into this? In that you went in to talk about intelligent meeting recap, which is a different product.
It is, yes.
So how does Copilot interact with this specifically?
It's at the end of the day, the data, anything that goes into the graph, it will leverage, but it's not directly connected. And that's a big challenge. Like, that's why the first question I get is, oh, great, so Copilot is intelligent recap. It's like, no, they're very separate, totally different experiences. And I know it's hard when you haven't like used it, but the power is if you're exporting meeting notes, for example, and those meeting notes are already attributed to individuals, now leveraging them through a Copilot experience is easier because it's already, you can type in, hey, when was the last time I spoke to David? Right, and what did we discuss? We can't remember, and it can see those notes and pull them out and give you a summary, right? And you could do that in Teams Copilot. You can do it in elsewhere in the stack, but that's the idea: is that it's not necessarily we're bringing Copilot to the meeting room, right? It's more that there are, in this case, intelligent features in the room, but that Copilot is super important as well to be just sort of thinking about when you're talking to customers more broadly. It's the lines are blurring. I think that's my takeaway. The lines are blurring here at the moment. It's you're having a conversation about the physical hardware you're deploying in a meeting room, and at the same time figuring out how is it that they can deploy a M365 Copilot into the M365 stack. So yeah. Yes.
Firstly, I love the roundtable back.
Yeah.
10 years later, and
it's back. Yeah.
Are people asking for that?
I think
excited by it because there are other solutions like Yale's photo rooms, multi-camera. That's where the sound comes from.
Yep.
People asking for that.
I think I'm in two minds. One is I think they don't know to ask for it. It's like they don't see it, like they don't understand at the moment. If you're in the room physically and the camera's working and everyone can see everyone, then it's like that's a win. That's the meeting room's on. I've seen but the other side of it is I've seen demos of I'll call that I saw a site demo, and it's just so powerful. It's not the fact that, I mean, great, there's a camera in the middle of the room, but it's the way that this technology, and this happens with the other solutions, is that it's not just dependent on that one camera. It's a combination of the front of room and the table. So it's as conversation flows and as people, I mean, you might get up and start whiteboarding. The camera will follow you, but it won't just like stick on your behind while you're up on the writing the board. It knows to try and capture from maybe a different angle to see you better. And as people start coming into the conversation, it will flip between people. It's so powerful. So yes, I think in answer to your question, maybe they're not asking for it, but once they see a demo, they'll get it.
Yeah, the idea that there's a director sitting there.
Yeah.
Calling the shots.
Yes.
I think that's something you can sell.
Yeah, and that's, I mean, again, that's all the back end of that, the sort of the guts of that is all AI powered, right? That's the innovation coming from our hardware partners. Teams on its own is fantastic, but it comes to life through these partners in the meeting room. And so yeah, we're seeing it from, I mean, you name it. Everyone's got a slightly different take and a feature on how these AI power features are working, and the director model as well, being able to split individual people out. But yeah, you just need to see it. You need to see it.
I've got a quick question. It's just about the easiest way to kind of light up in your tenancy the facial recognition and voice recognition, because it's a great kind of ability that people are interested in. But I've talked to a number of customers about it, and they're like, "Yeah, I don't want to have to manage my staff to try and actually go and do that." Is there a roadmap or a plan that you can speak about that possibly uses meeting attendants or attending from your own compute to just give them an option to say, "Yes, just tick that box at the end of the meeting and light up my voice and facial recognition"?
I don't know. If it was coming in the future and Ilya hasn't talked about it, then I'd say I wouldn't be allowed to. But no, it's I agree. I mean, I had to proactively go into the Teams client and I had to register my face and voice. And unless you tell someone to do it, so I mean, look, maybe I'm thinking about it, maybe I'm oversimplifying, but it could be part of a change management piece at the customer where it's like today is facial recognition day. I don't know. Yeah, it sounds creepy, but it's like today's the moment to go and do it, and you can get a free coffee or something. Like you make that happen, just make it, because I think maybe it is flipped, right? You said, is there a checkbox that you can check on the way out? Maybe it'll be that there's 3 people attributed with their notes and everything in the meeting afterwards in the intelligent recap, and you aren't. And you're like, oh, how do I get that done? So I think there will be a snowball later. But
once you get that 10%,
yeah,
people start missing out
yeah,
on those abilities, you can snowball it.
Yeah.
But just getting that first 10%, the people I've talked to, that feels hard and it feels like something they'll do later.
Yeah, I don't have any fresh insight for you, unfortunately, on that. I'll quickly have a look to see if there's any questions in the chat. Oh, there's not touch. Can we just not see up the presenter's nostrils? Thank you. Will there be any efficiency monitoring capabilities, reporting information coming with the room AI options for MTR? That I'm not sure. I'll have to leave that to one of the more technical guys. Again, I'm just a lowly sales dude, but I can take that chat, Anthony, I can take that question offline and give it to Higgsy. He should be able to answer that for you. I'm sorry again about not being able to see the presentation. I will share that after the session. Was there any other questions? Oh, yeah, over here. I think you've been.
Just jumping on that, the AI one, often like the integrator type background.
Yep.
I know there's a list of Microsoft Teams certified devices, like usually audio based, whether it uses software or hardware, AEC, that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
In regards to like facial recognition stuff, is there a similar list of like this is, I suppose, AI capability ready, like a list of third party peripherals or something?
I'm sure there is. I haven't seen it yet. I mean, it's the announcements are coming out slowly, right? I mean, you would have seen probably some look, top of mind. I've seen announcements about the P50 and the Yearling center of table camera becoming as like intelligent speakers, intelligent cameras. There's the M speech and there's the from Yearling. There's also the ePost intelligent speaker. So there's a couple of those intelligent speakers too. Like off the top of my head, that's it. But I've been asked that multiple times. So
obviously, when you're selling a client,
yeah, you just want to go, this is intelligent.
Look, this is like
yeah.
AI ready, I suppose.
Yeah.
Rather than selling something that's not going to be able to support all.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's the case. I will. I'll see if I can include it when I go back out to all the attendees of this. I'll see if I can include a link if there is one existing.
Beam Chat will actually give you that list.
There you go. Thank you.
I just, of all places, I had a message from the boss, LinkedIn, for months.
Mm-hmm.
How do we turn this stuff on?
I'd have the intelligent features like the spatial audio and the IntelliFrame and everything. I would have to find out because I'm not. Again, I don't do a lot of deployment. The intelligent meeting recap, again, that's dependent on Teams Premium. So if you've got Teams Premium, it's enabled. But the everything else. Look, I would assume it's on by default, but you can never. Yeah, don't assume.
The search.
No.
And I couldn't find anything.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I'm assuming it's default. But I could. That's something I could follow back on. Yeah. Oh yes.
Yeah, so my question is to first one would be on privacy. So it's basically in order to enable AI, it's basically collecting some data.
Yes, it is. Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
And where is it stored?
Mm-hmm.
And if it's something that can be, and my second question is, if it's something that can be erased or /corrected. Are there mechanisms for that?
Yeah, the question, sorry, I haven't been repeating a lot of the questions, but the question here is talking about the facial recognition and the voice recognition and whether it is like where is it stored and whether it can be erased. The answer is, I mean, it's limited to your tenant, right? So it's not going beyond your tenant. We don't use it. We don't train data or anything like train the AI models on it at all. As far as the specific location, I'd have to find out. I'm not that deep into it. And look, I'm not meant to say stuff like this, but I assume, given the huge focus on trust that Microsoft has, trying to deliver these AI-powered solutions, but in incredibly in a trusted way that you can, that we're not going to again train models on it. We're not going to retain data that you don't need, all that sort of stuff. Dare I say yes, you can delete them, but I will have to come back to you on that question as well.
I was just thinking of scenarios where, for example, in are actually inviting outsiders.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, they won't be registered.
They're not supported. Yeah.
But for the purposes of the meeting, maybe they would want to intensify,
Mm-hmm.
but then they might have some problem recognized within our system. They probably might want to be based.
Yes. As far as I know, if you're not on the tenant, you can't be. You can't, like, you have to go into the Teams client in the settings and like proactively give your face and voice in there. If you're a guest, there's nothing saved. You'll just guest one in the room. Yeah.
But not into tenants.
As far as I know, no, at the moment, yeah. And again, that's like a trust thing, right? I mean, if you're seeing in here, a lot of people are joining as attendees, and their names. I mean, a lot of them have their names in there, but a lot of them are just attendee 1 or attendee 2 or whatever. That's the idea, is that if you want to be anonymous, you can be in the. You don't have to put your face in. It brings to life a lot of features when you do, but you don't have to. Yeah. Okay. Again, apologies to everyone that joined online. I'll get this deck out to everyone so you have it. But yeah, no, thank you so much for joining. I'll be around for a little bit if you want to have a chat afterwards. Thank you very much.